Hello, everyone. My name is Tatiana, and I'm pleased to discuss John Locke's Metaphysics of Substance. In this presentation, I will explore why Locke concluded that the underlying substance of things is a mysterious something, I know not what. I will examine how this idea fits into Locke's broader philosophy and what this admission reveals about the limits of empirical knowledge. Locke, a central figure in early modern philosophy, made groundbreaking contributions to the theory of knowledge, but his view on substance presents a unique challenge to the empirical framework he championed. I will cover the following key points throughout the presentation. Locke's theory of substance, including distinct between primary and secondary qualities, and how substance acts as the support of qualities. The problem of empirical knowledge, why Locke believes substance are unknowable, and the implications of this for the limits of human understanding. The significance of Locke's admission about substance as a mysterious something, and how this shapes his overall epistemology and metaphysical thought. A critical reflection on Locke's view, examining how it resonates with or differs from later philosophers and its impact on modern discussions of metaphysics and epistemology. By the end of this presentation, I aim to provide a deeper understanding of Locke's views on substance and how his acknowledgement of unknowability of substance contributes to the ongoing philosophical discussion about the limits of knowledge. Let's begin by first discussing Locke's theory of the substance and how he distinguishes between primary and secondary qualities. Hello, everyone. My name is Tatiana Smith, and I am pleased to discuss with you John Locke's Metaphysics of Substance, something I know not what. I will cover the following key points throughout the presentation. 1. Locke's theory of substance, including his distinction between primary and secondary qualities, and how his substance acts as the support for qualities. The problem of empirical knowledge, why Locke believes substances are unknowable, and the implications of this for the limits of human understanding. The significance of Locke's admission about substance as a mysterious something, and how this shapes his overall epistemology and metaphysical thought. A critical reflection on Locke's view, examining how it resonates with or differs from later philosophers and its impact on modern discussions of metaphysics and epistemology. By the end of the presentation, I aim to provide a deeper understanding of Locke's views on substance and how his acknowledgement of unknowability of substances contribute to the ongoing philosophical discussion about the limits of knowledge. Let's begin by first discussing Locke's theory of substance and how he distinguishes between primary and secondary qualities. According to Meir, 1997, Locke's theory of substance is rooted in his understanding of relationships between objects and their qualities. In his view, substance are the underlying reality that supports the qualities we perceive in the world. These qualities can be divided into two categories, primary and secondary. Primary qualities such as shape, size, and motion are inherent in objects and exist whether or not we perceive them. Secondary qualities such as color, taste, and sound depend on the interaction between the object and the observer's senses. Locke argues that substance are responsible for holding these qualities together, yet we can never directly perceive substances themselves. Instead, we only have access to the qualities that substance produce in our minds. The separation between the perceivable qualities and the imperceptible substance forms the core of Locke's metaphysical theory. Locke further elaborates between the distinction between primary and secondary qualities. For example, color and sound do not exist in an object but are produced by interaction of the object with the sensory organs, while primary qualities are properties that exist in the object itself. These qualities, like extension, shape, and motion, for instance. While substance holds qualities together, for example, wood has size, shape, color, texture. Substance is never directly known and creates a gap in Locke's philosophy, which proves Locke's point. Substances cannot be directly known through sensory experience. The limits of perception and knowledge. Locke's view on substance raises important questions about the limits of human knowledge. So here's a question for you guys. If knowledge is sensory based, how do we know what cannot be experienced? Just food for thought. While his empiricist philosophy that all knowledge comes from sensory experience, substances are imperceptible and therefore unknowable. Locke admits that we can never fully understand what substances are, as we only know them through their qualities. The limitation is central to Locke's epistemology. Knowledge is grounded in experience, but the nature of substance remains beyond reach of direct experience. The implication of this for Locke's broader philosophy is significant. It reveals the boundaries of empirical knowledge. While we can acquire knowledge of these qualities through experience, the true nature of substances that underpin these qualities remains a mystery, forcing Locke to acknowledge that some aspects of reality are forever. Empirical knowledge and the problem of substance. Locke's epistemology is based on all knowledge originates from sensory experience. All knowledge is acquired through experience. Two primary sources of knowledge: sensation, external input from senses, seeing, hearing, touching, and reflection, internal processing and thinking about sensory experiences. These experiences form the foundation of all idea. Locke's approach emphasizes that knowledge is empirical, grounded in evidence from the senses. While Locke's theory of knowledge emphasizes the importance of sensory experience, it also reveals its limitation. Locke acknowledges that not everything we experience can be fully understood through the sense. One of the core challenges of his empirical philosophy is the unknowability of a substance. According to Locke, substances are the support of qualities, but they remain impeccable to our senses. We can only perceive qualities that the senses exhibit, such as shape, color, texture. However, the substance itself, the underlying reality that supports these qualities, is not something we can directly experience. The gap in the knowledge presents a fundamental problem for Locke's empiricism. If all knowledge is supposed to be based on experience, then how can we know something that cannot be experienced? This paradox challenges the very notion of what we can know through empirical means. The concept of substance as a mysterious something. Locke's solution to the problem of unknowable substance lies in his famous declaration that substance is a mysterious something, I know not what. The admission highlights a critical aspect of his philosophy. the limits of human knowledge. Substance, according to Locke, is something that can be perceived directly. Instead, it is inferred from the qualities that we cannot observe. For instance, we know that a piece of wood exists because we perceive the shape, color, and texture, but the substance of the wood itself, the something that supports these qualities, remain a mystery. Locke's epistemology is forced to accept that while we can have knowledge of qualities of objects, the true nature of substances is forever beyond our sensory reach. This creates a tension within Locke's empiricist framework, and it contradicts his fundamental belief that all knowledge must come from experience. Substance as the cause of qualities. Although substance are unknowable, Locke argues that they are still essential for the existence of the qualities we perceive. Substances, in Locke's view, serve as the cause of qualities we experience. For example, a ball's round shape and its ability to bounce are qualities that depend on the substance of the ball. Locke contends that these qualities cannot exist independently. They must be anchored in a substance, which is the something that holds all these properties together. However, the implications of empirical knowledge. The problem of substance and its unknowability have profound implications for Locke's understanding of empirical knowledge. If substances cannot be perceived directly, then they cannot be fully known, even though they are necessary to explain the existence of qualities we experience. Locke's recognition of the gap in knowledge reveals a limitation in his empiricism. Although he insists that all knowledge comes from sensory experiences, acknowledgement of the unknowability of substance challenges the idea that our senses can provide us with a complete understanding of reality. This gap in knowledge prompts their philosophical questions about the nature of reality and the limits of human perception. If substances remain unknowable, then how can we claim to have complete knowledge of the world? Locke's solution that we can only know qualities leaves us with an incomplete view of the world, one that is grounded in experience but cannot fully capture the essence of the objects we perceive. The mysterious something. In his essay concerning human understanding, Locke famously admits that the true nature of substance is a mysterious something. I know not what. This admission marks a critical point in Locke's philosophy. Despite the empiricist's commitment to understanding the world through sensory experience, he acknowledges that substance remains beyond our direct perception. According to Locke, substances are the underlying entities that support the qualities we observe, but they are not something we can experience through our senses. Instead, we infer their existence from the qualities that they produce. Locke's acknowledgement of the mystery underscores a central tension in his epistemology. The idea that some aspects of reality are inherently unknowable. The contradiction between Locke's empiricist philosophy and his recognition of the limits of sensory knowledge reflects a significant philosophical challenge. The role of sensory perception in the understanding of substance. Locke's theory of knowledge is founded on the idea that all knowledge derives from sensory experience. We learn about the world through our senses and from our experiences. we form ideas. However, when it comes to substance, Locke admits that our senses provide us with only its effects, not the substance itself. For example, we see the shape and color of an apple, feel its texture, and taste its sweetness. These are secondary qualities that depend on interaction between the object and our senses. The substance of the apple, the something that holds qualities together, is never directly perceived. Locke argues that while we can know qualities of the apple, the substance behind them remains a mystery. This limits the scope of sensory knowledge. While we can know much about the world, we cannot know the underlying substance. Locke's admission of substance as a mysterious something reveals important implications for his broader epistemology. If substances are unknowable, then the limits of empirical knowledge are evident. Locke's philosophy hinges on the idea that knowledge comes from sensory experience. However, substances remain beyond the reach of our senses, which raise questions of how much we truly know about the world. While Locke provides a robust framework for understanding how qualities are perceived and how they contribute to our knowledge of objects, and unknowability of the substance suggests that our knowledge is inherently incomplete. Locke's theory acknowledges that despite the richness of sensory information, some aspects of reality remain forever hidden from human understanding. This paradox in Locke's philosophy has promoted ongoing debates in epistemology about the limits of knowledge and the relationship between perception and reality. John Locke empiricist philosophy is based on the premise that all knowledge originates from sensory experience. He famously argues that mind at birth is blank slate in a tabula rasa, and that experiences from the outside world shape our understanding. Locke distinguishes between two sources of knowledge: sensation and reflection. Sensation refers to the external input received through the five senses, such as seeing or touching objects. Reflection, on the other hand, involves the internal processes of the mind, such as thinking, reasoning, and considering the data we have received through sensation. For Locke, all ideas are ultimately rooted in one or both of these forms of experience. The empirical foundation underpins his epistemology, emphasizing that knowledge comes from the interaction between the mind and the external world, shaped by sensory experiences and mental operations. While Locke places great importance on sensory experience as a foundation of knowledge, he also recognizes its limitations. Our senses, Locke argues, can provide us with knowledge of qualities, but they cannot reveal the true nature of substance. For instance, while we can perceive the color, shape, or texture of an object, we can never perceive the substance that underlies these qualities. The limitation challenges the scope of empirical knowledge. Locke acknowledges that while we know qualities through our senses, the substance that causes those qualities remain unknowable. The mind can infer the existence of substance, but cannot know them directly. However, to bridge the gap between sensory experience and the unknowable substance, Locke introduces the concept of interference. While we cannot directly perceive substances, Locke argues that we can infer their existence based on qualities they produce. For example, we know that a rock exists because we perceive its hardness, weight, and shape. However, the substance of a rock, the something that underlies these qualities, remains hidden from our senses. Locke's empiricism acknowledges that while direct sensory knowledge is limited to qualities, reasons, and interference allow us to form ideas about the existence of substances. However, These these interferences are not based on direct experience, but the regularity and coherence of the observed qualities. Locke's recognition of unknowability of substance has profound implications for the limits of empirical knowledge. If we can only know the qualities of objects and cannot directly perceive their substance, then our knowledge of the world is incomplete. Locke's empiricist framework, which is based on the idea that all knowledge comes from sensory experience, is forced to accept some aspects of reality and are inherently unknowable. This raises important questions about the scope and reliability of empirical knowledge. While Locke provides a framework for understanding how we acquire knowledge of qualities, his admission about the unknowability of substance challenges the notion that empirical knowledge provides a complete understanding of reality. In essence, Locke's philosophy reveals that while sensory knowledge is valuable, it is ultimately limited and unable to fully capture the nature of the world, leaving certain aspects of reality forever out of reach. Locke had an impact on Hume, Berkeley, and influenced Kant. Berkeley's perception of centric reality, he influenced Hume's skepticism about casualty, and substance. Influenced Kant, mind role in shaping knowledge beyond experience. Locke's admission that substance are a mysterious something highlights an important limitation with his empiricist framework. While Locke's theory of knowledge emphasizes the primary of sensory experience, his acknowledgement of the unknowability of substance forces a reevaluation of the very scope of human knowledge. Locke's inability to explain or define substance challenges the idea that all knowledge can be derived from empirical means. This presents a paradox in his epistemology. If substances are essential to explaining qualities we perceive yet are beyond reach, then what does this say about the completeness of our knowledge? This contradiction has been a subject of critique of philosophers who argue that Locke's framework, while revolutionary, cannot fully account for all aspects of reality. Despite this limitation, Locke's work remains foundational, sparking debates about relationship between perception, reality, and knowledge. Substance remains unknowable, creating tension in Locke's empiricism. We can know qualities but not the underlying substance. Locke highlights limits of human knowledge and sensory experience, influence on later thinkers, and ongoing philosophical. Substance remain unknowable, creating tension in Locke's empiricism. We can know qualities but not their underlying substance. Locke highlights limits of human knowledge and sensory experience, influence on later thinkers, and ongoing philosophical discussions. Encourages reflections on boundaries of what we can truly know. So here are two questions for you guys. How does Locke's distinction between primary and secondary qualities help illustrate the limits of human perception and their knowledge? The second question is, if substances are inherently unable, what implications does this have for reliability of empirical knowledge and our ability ability to fully understand what's going on in reality.